Okay, let's get right into it. We're living through this profound, really once-in-a-generation shift in how the world works. The global order we've known for decades, the one defined by a single dominant power, well, that's being reconfigured right before our eyes. New powers, new alliances, they're taking center stage. And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the core tension of this new era. It's this blunt, unfiltered take on a world that's splitting into two major blocks. You've got the West on one side and this emerging axis that's challenging that old order. So, to really get our heads around this whole great reconfiguration, we're going to break it down into five key pieces. We'll look at how the old order kind of fell apart, who the new major players are, what's up with the powerful countries caught in the middle, the brewing fight over the world's money, and of course, what this all means for the future. So first things first, we need to understand exactly how we got here. How did that era of a single dominant global power, what people call the unipolar world, how did it start to come apart at the seams? Well, if you look back over the last 20 years, it wasn't one thing, but a series of major shocks that just kept chipping away at the system. The 2003 Iraq War, that really damaged America's standing. Then, the 2008 financial crisis, it shattered faith in the Western economic model. And finally, the Trump administration made this sort of transactional, disruptive approach to global affairs feel normal, which pushed even our closest allies to start looking out for themselves a little more. So, what's the bottom line here? It's that we've moved from a world with one center of gravity to a world with many. And that shift has emboldened new powers, creating a much more competitive, fragmented, and, let's be honest, unpredictable global landscape. Okay, so if the old order is fractured, what's rising up to take its place? Well, we're seeing new groups form, and two major challengers to the Western-led system have really come to the forefront. A super-formalized partnership between China and Russia, and this rapidly expanding economic bloc you've probably heard of, BRICS. So in early 2022, Beijing and Moscow basically declared a partnership with no limits. Now, this isn't just some temporary marriage of convenience. We're talking about a deep strategic alignment. They see themselves as a common front, pushing back together against what they see as Western pressure. For years, that's been the common wisdom in the West, right? That BRICS is just this mismatched collection of countries that can't really get anything done. But is that still true? Let's take a look at what the numbers are telling us. Now, check this out. This is hard data from the IMF. They're projecting that in 2025, the BRICS nations are going to grow at a rate of 3.8%. The G7 nations, just 1%. That is more than 3 times the rate of growth. That's huge. And this isn't just about a single year. It just hammers home their economic power. The IMF projects that over half of all global economic growth in the coming years is going to come from the BRICS countries. This means the engine of the world's economy is fundamentally shifting. And it's not just about growth rates. The bloc now controls immense strategic resources. We're talking a quarter of all global oil reserves and most of the rare earth minerals that are essential for pretty much all our technology. They're building their own banks, they're trading way more among themselves, and they're actively trying to rely less on the US dollar. This is no talking shop. This is a bloc building real, tangible leverage. So you've got this new competition between blocs, and that creates this fascinating and really powerful position for the influential countries caught right in the middle. We're calling them the global swing states, and believe me, they are rewriting the rules of diplomacy. See, these countries have zero interest in choosing a side in some new Cold War. Instead, they're playing a much more sophisticated game of multi-alignment. They keep things fluid, they're pragmatic, and they pick and choose partners based on specific issues and what's best for them at that moment. India is the perfect case study. Just look at this. On security, they're working closely with the US in groups like the Quad. At the same time, they're still buying a ton of weapons from Russia. In trade, the US is a top partner, but so is China. They work with the West in the G20, but they're also a core member of BRICS with Russia and China. This, right here, is multi-alignment in action. And this quote from India's foreign minister, it just absolutely nails the sentiment that's driving this whole strategy. It captures this widespread feeling among these swing states that, there's been some Western hypocrisy and a deep desire for a global order where their problems and their perspectives matter just as much. All right, let's talk about money, because one of the most critical battlegrounds in this great reconfiguration is the global financial system. Specifically, it's this growing effort by the new blocs to rely less on the US dollar and build their own parallel system. For decades, a huge source of American power has been its control over the plumbing of global finance, especially the SWIFT system. It's what connects all the world's banks, and the US has used its power to cut countries off from it as a pretty potent weapon. Okay, now watch this. This is where the game is really changing. A typical international transfer using SWIFT takes, 3 to 5 days to settle? China has built an alternative system for its new digital currency that settles the same exact transaction in just 7 to 8 seconds. Days versus seconds. Just think about that for a moment. And this isn't some far-off concept. This is happening right now. This new system is getting adopted fast because it offers huge cost savings and it's expanding its network all across Asia and the Middle East. It's already processed a massive volume of payments, and dozens of central banks around the world are testing it out. The bottom line, it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's a real viable alternative to the dollar-based system. So, given all these massive shifts, the rise of new blocs, the strategy of these swing states, the creation of parallel financial systems, how should the United States and Europe adapt? Well, a new playbook is starting to emerge, one that moves way beyond the old assumptions of the unipolar world. Experts are recommending a much more pragmatic and flexible approach. Instead of trying to force countries to choose sides with this democracy versus autocracy talk, the advice is to diversify relationships. That means you work together on stuff you agree on, like climate and health, while accepting that a country can be a trade partner and a strategic competitor all at the same time. You have to compartmentalize. And this really is the crucial point for the West. A winning strategy in this new world isn't about demanding loyalty or forcing countries into a corner. It's about engaging with them as powerful, independent actors who have their own interests. It's a huge shift in how you conduct foreign policy, moving away from pressure and towards real partnership. And that leaves us with the central challenge of this new era. In a world defined by fluid alliances and competing centers of power, how do you build real, lasting stability when you can't demand absolute loyalty anymore? The answer to that question is going to reshape global commerce and diplomacy for decades to come. Definitely something to think about.